Currahee Mountain got its name from Native Americans. They called it that because Currahee meant stands alone or alone on the plain. This old mountain does stand alone. 5 miles south of Toccoa, it's the last of the mountains on the Blue Ridge. This old hill rises about 800 feet above the land below it, making Currahee the highest spot in Stevens County. Old Currahee, as most of the locals call it, has for centuries stood as a landmark and a beacon. It is said that the Cherokee thought God himself lived on top of the Currahee, and warriors would climb to the top and meditate and prepare for major war and events like that. During World War II, Camp Toccoa was built at the base of the mountain to train infantry paratroopers. Many of the men who trained here took part in D-Day, that was invasion of Normandy. The story of Easy Company, one part of the group, was told in a book called A Band of Brothers. Later on, there was a television miniseries about that. And that book and the miniseries made this little hill quite a celebrity. The camp was originally called Camp General Robert Toombs. That was after a Confederate general in the Civil War. There was a problem with that name. You see, the men would get off the train in Toccoa, and immediately they'd march past the Toccoa Casket Company. It was the camp commander who suggested the name changing. "I don't want these boys marching past a casket company on their way to Camp Toombs," he told the Army Department. The name was soon changed to Camp Toccoa. That sounds much better anyway. In the 1930s, the Works Progress Administration, that's the WPA, built a road that ran almost to the top of the mountain. Today, that road, which can be driven or hiked, is known as the Robert Sink Memorial Trail. That's in memory of Colonel Bob Sink, the commanding officer of the 506th Paratroop Infantry Regiment. They were part of the 101st Airborne Division. Now, I repeat a lot of stories sometimes. They're legends, and I can't prove them. Well, I heard one recently that is true, and I'd like to share it because it's a good story about Currahee. There was a young lieutenant from the 101st Airborne named Brian Brennan. Both legs were missing, and he had a brain injury as well. This was a result of a roadside bomb in Afghanistan. Lieutenant Brennan had been unresponsive for so long that his doctors had given up hope on him. Then one day, General David Petraeus visited the hospital, and he looked in on Lieutenant Brennan. In an attempt to get the young man to respond, he suddenly shouted, "1, 2, 3, Currahee!" You see, Currahee was the battle cry of the 101st. In a reaction that the doctors called almost unbelievable, the lieutenant instantly responded. He tried to sit up in the bed and became very animated. It was clear that he was responding to his unit's battle cry. Lieutenant Brennan soon came out of the coma, and less than a year later he walked across the stage on new legs. After being introduced by the general, this young man delivered a speech to 2,000 people. At the end, they all shouted, "Currahee!" If you're interested, you can search on the internet for Brian Brennan and see this miracle for yourself. If you get a chance, you might stop by and take a peek at old Currahee. If you're feeling energetic, you may want to climb to the top of the mountain yourself. They tell me the view's pretty good.